What's doing, everybody? Welcome to First Class Fatherhood. I'm Alec, and before I hit you with today's interview, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the link in the description so you can listen to all of the interviews I've done with so many tremendous dads, including Dana White, Deion Sanders, Tony Hawk, and so many others. Now let's get going with today's interview. Joining me now, First Class Father, David Harris Jr. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Absolutely a pleasure to be with you today, Alec. Thank you so much.
All right, let's start right here. How many kids do you have and how old are they?
I have two daughters. They're 22, and the oldest will be 24 this next month of April.
Very cool. What type of sports or activities were they into growing up?
They love to dance. So they did some of the other things like soccer and whatnot, but they really excelled in dance. So we were part of the parents that drove all around the state of California when we lived in California when they were raised, and went to all the dance competitions. And it was always fun and always long weekends. Missing this. Oh, my, little girls. Oh, I can't find this. I can't find that. Having to make sure that their hair is done up perfectly. It was always definitely a blessing that my wife was able to travel all the time. She was actually able to stay home from work to help raise the kids. So I think that was a real crucial and elemental part of helping raise such amazing young ladies.
Yeah, good stuff. And David, if you could just take a minute here to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
So my background has been in direct sales and entrepreneurship. I started my first company when I was 20 years old. My wife and I started a health and wellness supplement company, a lifestyle brand company about almost 7 years ago. It's called uncorkedliving.com. And so I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my entire life. I started to get more into the social media scene when the debates were going on between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And I just couldn't stay silent as far as what I felt was at stake for our country, and why I wanted to show my support for a president or a person that was going to become president was majorly because of his stance on the pro-life issue. I'm very pro-life. My wife actually found out when her mother was on hospice about to leave this earth, which she did. She lost that battle with cancer, but she found out that her mom at the last minute had left the abortion clinic and decided to have her. So I wouldn't have my wife. We wouldn't have our two amazing, beautiful daughters had her mother not chose at the last minute to have life and give this baby a shot. So I'm very passionate about being pro-life. And because of that, I'm very passionate about what I've seen this president do so far for the pro-life movement. I truly believe he's the most pro-life president that we've ever had. And it's been an honor to support him. I wrote a book called Why I Couldn't Stay Silent that kind of documents and accounts my rise in social media to the platform that I have right now. And I'm on Black Voices for Trump because that's a part of the campaign that I'm honored to be a part of. And I'm also a fellow of the Falkirk Center, which was a center put together by Jerry Falwell Jr. and Charlie Kirk for believers that have a good, strong understanding of biblical foundations to actually have more of a spotlighted media and try to combat the rise of socialism beliefs in the church, because it is a rising, a growing trend, and it's unfortunate. So I've got my hands in quite a few things, but I speak, I travel all over the country, and I love nothing more, though, than to see somebody focusing on family values and the family unit, because I truly believe that that's where everything starts.
Yeah, well said, David. And I love and respect what you do, and I think your voice is so necessary, especially right now. And with the family, I know that there's a real big fatherless crisis going on in our country. And in my opinion, I think that's really the greatest crisis we have right now. And if we could just kind of get our family units back together and get our family values more prioritized, I think most of the problems that we're seeing here would start to go away.
Yes.
100%
agree.
Yeah, and you know what? And going back to about how old were you when you first became a dad, and how did becoming a father kind of change your perspective on life?
I was 20 actually when we had our first daughter, and then 22 when we had our second daughter, and it changes everything. I mean, when you've helped to create a person that comes into this earth that you're responsible for, that depends on you, that is, in their infancy and even throughout most of their adult years, you're tasked with the protection and the growing and the concern of how that child is going to develop. And so I did a lot of praying, brother. I remember when they were little babies, especially both my daughters, but when they were babies, I would work long hours in the day, and I'd come home and I'd pull them out of their cribs, and I would just hold them And I would just pray to God, God, make me a good father, make me a good father, make me a good father. And I remember one time he spoke really loud to me. It wasn't audible or anything, but I heard him say, "You be a good son, and being a good son, you'll be a good father." And that impacted me a lot because it's a relational thing. Then that I believe that if we have that relationship with God, then it's able to and easier to translate into relationship with our kids. But it is all about a relationship and building, nurturing, cultivating a relationship with your kids that where they want to listen to you, where they feel strength and courage to grow and to step into who they're becoming as individuals. But yet they also understand the need for a good moral compass. They have a good moral compass and understand the need for God in their life. So having children will definitely change your life. It'll expand you. It'll definitely test the boundaries of your own individuality as far as your own personhood and your own character. But it strengthens you. It's designed to strengthen you, and it's definitely one of the best and greatest blessings I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, good stuff, David. And I'm right there with you. I'm a very faith-based person. I keep God first in my life, and that's another thing that's been removed from so much of our society, especially our school system. And I think that's something that hopefully we can work to getting back as well. And right now, listen, you're into the health and wellness game, and that's kind of on everybody's mind right now with the latest world-ending disaster here, the coronavirus.
Right.
What are some tips you got for moms and dads out there to keep their children healthy and especially building up their immune systems?
Well, for kids, one of the biggest things, obviously, that we've been hearing nonstop is, teach them and show them to wash their hands constantly, try to keep their hands away from their face. As far as building up their immune system, good vitamin C that's going to have good absorption in their body. Vitamin C is just one of those great old ingredients, one of those great things that we can consume on a regular basis that you can't really consume too much of. That does build up the immune system. Echinacea is also a really powerful one to do that. Garlic is also a powerful one to do that. So the stronger the immune system is, then the more likely that if somebody does contract the virus, that it's just going to pass. It's not going to have damage, long-term damage or effects to the individual. So definitely all those things put together is a plus for that. And I actually have a multi-mineral multivitamin supplement called Revive that helps to build your body at a cellular level from the inside out. And it gives your body almost everything else it needs, mineral-wise, vitamin-wise. So I promote that on my website as well, and been talking to my viewers and listeners about why I use that and that I use it every single day.
Yeah, that's awesome, David. And you know what? I know there's so many different varieties in the supplement world that are out there, so it's kind of hard to know which ones provide the best benefit to us. Are there any supplements that are out there that we should be avoiding, that we should be looking for, that we shouldn't be taking or offering to our kids?
Well, I can't really get into specifics on brand for legality issues, but what I can tell you is that anytime you're taking any kind of vitamin, if it's hard to break down, like you can take our Revive tablet and you can just break it in half. A lot of vitamins you can't even break in half, and the problem with that is their coating is so strong on the outside that a lot of those vitamins, before they actually break down and start to absorb into your body's system, they're about to go out of your body. So a lot of us wind up with things that we take that we don't actually get any benefits from. So you want to make sure that it has good absorption factors. Gel caps are always better than, and capsules are always better normally than tablets. If it's a tablet, you want to make sure if it's something you can break in half, or it shares that it's got a very fast release coating on the outside, then that's kind of what you want to aim at, because there definitely is a lot of garbage out there. And the other thing that we've kind of championed is that all ingredients are not created equal. The other issue in the ingredient in the health supplement world is that so many health supplements, they get their ingredients from God knows where. There's thousands of suppliers for each and every individual ingredient on the market. And unfortunately, there's nothing that regulates the testing for how potent or strong those ingredients are. If they were grown in the right nutrients, if they had enough water, if they had enough light, all those things factor into whether or not ingredients are actually going to have a good impact on your body and actually give your body what that ingredient should. So again, those are the things that we champion, is that our ingredients are all selected because of their potency, their absorption. Those factors are things that aren't tested. And when you do take ingredients from supplements that actually have high potency and purity, then your body normally will feel it, notice it, and give you a result that you can without a doubt acknowledge and can tell the benefits from. So that's what we champion at our website. Again, uncorkedliving.com if somebody wants to try it, and they could use the code David. I am the president and founder, and that saves 20%. So.
Yeah, very cool. And I'm going to put a link to that in the description of today's podcast episode with the code there, too, so my listeners can tap in and get over there. Let me walk this over to you now as an entrepreneur. It's something you've been doing your entire life here. You got married at a very young age, started a family young, and started a business very young. And these are all things that usually we're in a world here now where young men have this idea of family life is something they should want to put off till maybe way down the line, if at all. They don't really see it as something to embrace at an early age. What were some of the challenges for you, or what kind of advice do you have for the guys out there that are looking to start their own business while they have a young family? Because I know a lot of times they'd rather work a job they hate because of the security of it rather than take a chance on starting their own business just for the fear that they may not be able to support their family.
Well, every single person's story is unique. For myself, I had answered an ad that was hiring for a sales job. It was a commission-based sales position, and I figured I could throw my hat in the ring and give it a shot. I found out that I was actually really good at communicating the benefits of that particular piece of equipment in order to get a person to agree with me that owning that piece of equipment was a benefit for them. And then in that exchange, a sale occurs. When that sale occurs, the commission's made. So I found out that I was really good at sales, and so I just continued to pursue it. And within 2 years, wound up opening my own office. And then within 2 more years, I had 2 offices and was one of the number 1 distributors in the country representing that company and that equipment in the western part of the United States. So what I would suggest is, find out what you're good at. If it's something that you're good at, was I passionate about it? I was passionate about health. It was in the health industry. But I was good at it. And if you're good at something and you can excel at something and you can grow in that in that space, then there's nothing wrong with giving it a shot and starting your own company if that opportunity presents itself to you. But everybody's story is definitely unique. And one thing is you got to work hard. You got to have the right mindset if you're going to start a business. Starting a business isn't for the faint of heart because there's ups and downs, and you've got to be in it to win it. You got to know that you've got what it takes, no matter what obstacles come your way, to continue to push that thing forward, and then grow, be pliable. Make sure you've got a good management team around you, and you can't do it all. You can't grow from startup to we were doing $2 million a year in sales in my peak years as a small business. And I had a great team that I had been able to cultivate around me of individuals that were in the right positions. There's a book that talks about having the people in the right seat on the bus. I can't think of the name of it right now. Maybe you know what it is, but it's talking about making sure that a person is in the right position for your company. So there's a lot there. We have so many tools now at Exposal, from podcasts to Audible to 15-minute short replays of books, that there really is no reason why a person can't get enough information to be able to do what they want to do if they're willing to put in the time and effort to do it.
Yeah, incredible, David. Very encouraging as well. And let me rein this back into you as a dad here. What type of disciplinarian were you as a dad with the girls growing up? And is it different than the discipline style you grew up with?
Yeah, my discipline style when I grew up was more shouting, don't do that, get out of there, or what's going on, and then I'd get the belt, and that was, of course, until I was an early teenager, and then I was a little bit too big for that. Then it was groundation. So with our girls, what we encouraged was timeouts. If it was really something they did that was just ornery or wrong or whatever, we would just talk to them. We really tried not to yell at them. We tried not to be reactionary, emotional over towards the kids, but just talk to them. Why did you do that? That hurt somebody else's feelings. Explaining what their actions did to somebody else, and then showing and then having a consequence behind it without emotion. Okay, well then what comes with that is going to be you putting your nose in the corner in a timeout, because that kind of behavior is deserves to have for you to have some time to think about it. So that was in the early years, and then our girls were pretty good for the most part, and they were very smart. I remember when they were about 6 and 8 years old, we went to Disneyland, and I said, okay, we're here for a few days. You're each going to have $100 a day. You each get $300 to spend it how you want. You just don't ask me for everything under the sun. This is your money. You spend it how you want. And really quick, our oldest came back and she said, she's like 8 years old, maybe 9, but I think she's about 8. She said, okay, we know what we want. And I said, okay, what is it? She said, well, do we have to spend it here at Disneyland? It's our money, right? And I said, sure, okay, that's fine. Where are we going with this? And they said, okay, we don't want anything from Disneyland. I said, okay, what do you want? She said, we want cell phones. So they hoodwinked me in. They got the commitment. They made sure it was their money. They could spend it how they want and not at Disneyland. And then they said cell phones. Well, back then there were the flip phones. They weren't smartphones that had technology for internet and all that. But I said, well, you know what? It's a good way to keep track of you and for you to get a hold of us at any time. So I think some other parents, when our kids showed up to school at 6 and 8 years old with cell phones, thought it was kind of funny. But I tried to be a father of my word and teach that into them. But so anyway, it was fun. It's been fun. And parenting never stops. They're 22 and 24. Our youngest was just on a cruise that came back after a week to Long Beach. And one of the individuals on the cruise apparently could have had the coronavirus. So the cruise was not allowed to disembark and they had to stay on there for a whole other day. So you're on the phone constantly and she's calling us and showing us videos. And she was able to finally disembark yesterday morning. But I'll tell you, parenting never stops. But
yeah, I wanted to fast forward that a little bit because I have 4 children myself, and my youngest is my only girl. She's 5 now, and I'm already dreading that days down the line when she'll hit that dating scene. You've already been there with your girls. How did you kind of handle it when your girls became eligible or started, getting involved with dating?
Have you seen that movie, Bad Boys?
Yeah, a lot of people refer to that. Yeah.
So, I never noticed it, but my wife and daughters always told me that anytime a boy came over, that I always would get more puffed up, and I'd be like, "Hey," talk more gruff, and but just tracking, making sure they are where they're supposed to be. Your kids can be seemingly as innocent as you can think possible, and you just never know where one little root started to grow inside their head that said they don't need to tell you everything and they can actually do something and get away with it. And we were fortunate that most of the time when our girls would do something like throw a party and we were out of town, we'd find out about it. And so it kind of helped to support and reinforce the fact that they shouldn't try to do stuff that they think they're going to get away with because we're going to find out about it anyway. But hindsight, I would definitely say, make sure that your kids are where they say they're going to be. You're talking to their kids' parents, your kids' friends' parents. If they say they're at so and so's house, make sure you connect on a talking basis with those parents, and that you're coordinating with parents. And because it's seemingly only getting worse as far as what's going on in the world around our kids. And, it takes a village to raise the kids. And I think that comes in by understanding that, make sure you're in the ears of the other parents that are around your kids and that you always know where your kids are at all times. And that is your job and role as a parent. And so, be forceful and make sure that it's happening.
Yeah, well said. And I think, although there are some horrifying effects of the cell phone and this whole media age, I think one of the best things is that you can track them with that, friend share or whatever it is, family share, and you can see where they are at all times. So I think that's one of the best benefits of it.
Yeah.
You got the David Harris Jr. Podcast going on. What was the genesis of that, and what is it all about?
So David J. Harris Jr. Show is on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and I cover current events. I've got a show that's video on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, 6 o'clock Central Time, Texas Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. And I cover current events and news and politics because the mainstream media and the majority of the mainstream media is driven by the liberal left. They don't give us the truth most of the time. They give us their perspective on the truth, and then they give us their narrative. And I was so tired of hearing their narrative that I decided to start publishing my own news site. So at davidharrisjr.com, we're a news site where you can get the top of the news of the day, news by the hour, breaking news. And then every day, Monday through Friday, I'll cover the latest breaking stories or the most important stories of the last 24 hours on that. So I wanted to translate that and transfer that over onto podcast for those for the audience that likes to listen and doesn't always have a chance to just sit and watch. And then I also do one-on-one interviews. So I've done some amazing one-on-one interviews with individuals that were with me at the White House. I've interviewed Tito Ortiz. I've interviewed Isaiah Washington that's come out. I've interviewed some amazing people. And I do deep dives with them. So the podcast is a way for you to get the shows and the one-on-one interviews and stay up to date with what's happening and what's important in our country.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome that we have access to be able to get to people like you and get a chance to hear some real news, what's going on, because I think we all kind of take it now that the mainstream media has just become almost worthless as far as news reporting. And I got a chance to see it. You mentioned there the White House. I was there several times with press clearance, and I'm there with the White House correspondents, and just listening to them behind the scenes, it's tremendous to hear the way they're shaping stories, and they're not actually just reporting the news. So, and what about your book?
Why I Couldn't Stay Silent.
Why I Couldn't Stay Silent. Well, what was the genesis of that, and where can we find it?
So you can get that also on my website, davidharrisjr.com. And if you like listening to books, if you're an Audible person, I did the narration for that, so that it is on Audible as well. And it covers, my kind of coming out as a Black man in this country, as an American first, as a Christian first, and then as a member of the Black community. But as a father and a husband as well, I just shared what I thought was at stake in this country, what is currently at stake in this country. I've got a chapter in there called What I Believe that covers my faith. I talk about what I believe the new civil rights movement is, and I talk about what I believe is necessary to help this country mend in a time we're so divided, where we need unity again. So it's a great book. I've had nothing but amazing results and feedback from it. So it's something that I believe and hope, and so far here, is waking people up to the truth of what's taking place in our country and actually bringing some unity and some healing back to our country.
Yeah, awesome, David. And as I said before, I'm going to have the link to the podcast, the book, and the website all in the description of this podcast episode so my listeners can check it out. Last thing I want to hit you with here, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for the new dad or for that about-to-be father who's out there listening?
I would just say take it one day at a time. It can be easy to get ahead of ourselves and think about tomorrow. And I'd also say, from my own perspective, appreciate, each and every day that you've got with your kids, whether it's one or two, but just, try to live in the moment, try to be present when you're with your child and your spouse or wife or girlfriend. But live in the moment, enjoy each and every day, understand that baby is an absolute gift from God. And you've been tasked with the responsibility of cultivating and nurturing that child into a child that's going to be a positive member of the human race, and hopefully a child that's also going to resemble the love that we get from God our Father. And so that's why I believe it's important that we have that love coming from God our Father first, so that then we can also give it to our kids. But be excited, be encouraged. It's an amazing journey. You're going to absolutely love it, but take it one day at a time and remember to rest.
Yeah, very well said. I love the message. This has been an honor for me. I got to say, David Harris Jr., you're a first-class father all the way, and thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time on First Class Fatherhood.
Absolutely, Alec. It was a pleasure being here, brother. Thank you for having me.